Hello everybody and welcome back to week 6 of the NFL season. Today we're going to be going over the showdown slate for Thursday Night Football between the Eagles and the Bucks. First I'll go into my favorite captain plays and what my captain player pool will be, and then I'll go into kind of breaking down each position, how to correlate your lineups better, and the overall strategy of this slate. So let's get right into this. So my favorite captains are these 5. So I have Jalen Hurts. I think that he's cheap, so he's cheaper than Tom Brady, and because he adds that extra mobility and he's facing a bad defense, well, at least a bad secondary in the Bucks, I think he's going to have a lot of success passing, and then he'll add a bunch of points on the ground running. So if we get a Jalen Hurts captain lineup, usually when you have a Jalen Hurts captain, you're going to want to pair him with at least one of his pass catchers. You don't necessarily need 2 with Hurts because he's not just like with Brady. If you have Brady in your captain, you're going to want a minimum of 2 of his pass catchers because the way he reaches his ceiling is through passing touchdowns. He rarely gets there with rushing touchdowns. So my favorite pairing this slate is Devonta Smith. I'm going to play a ton of Devonta Smith this slate. The Buccaneers have been getting beat by the receiver position more than any other team in the league. Devonta Smith has had like 3 touchdowns called back, I think, in the last 2 or 3 games. It's crazy. This, I think, is where he could have his big breakout game. But I also like the other. I think at least one of these receivers, pass catchers for the Eagles, go off. So I made it a rule to where every single lineup I make is going to have Watkins, Reagor, or Smith. And then I also threw Ertz in there because Dallas Goedert is going to be out, and Ertz is really, really cheap. And I think Ertz is a good one to have in this lineup. So having his 2 probably primary pass catchers in Smith and Ertz. Then you want to run it back on the Bucks. I like Fournette the most out of the running backs. He seems to have kind of taken over this backfield. Giovanni Bernard is back, and he kind of takes away more passing down work, but that's more of if they're playing from behind. I do think the Eagles can keep this one close, but I don't see the Eagles playing from so far ahead that they need to rely on Bernard. So I'm actually going to be fading Bernard on the slate. And Fournette is always in there when the game's close and they're playing ahead. And Ronald Jones is cheap enough to where I'll play him in lineups that I don't have Fournette. I won't play those 2 together. So Fournette, I always like the kickers, as I've said in most of these slates. I think they go too under-owned compared to how often they're in the winning lineups. So right now we have the scoring production on the Eagles through Hurts, Smith, and Ertz, and then the scoring production on the Bucks we have Fournette, Suckup, and then what do I have left? I have 8,300 left. So, you could fit in AB, but, then you leave only 100 left, and that lineup's going to be duplicated so many times. All right, so instead of Suckup, we may need to do a little more of a value play. So we can, because I do want, it's rare that at least one of AB, Godwin, or Evans has a good game. I think you need to have at least one of those receivers in your lineups. The Eagles have been actually pretty good against the receiver position, but they've never really had 2 receivers go off against them. It's always been at most 1. They've done a pretty solid job of keeping the ball in front of them and not letting these receivers go crazy. Let's see what happens if you get Godwin in here. He's probably my favorite if he's healthy. And then that leaves you 3,100 left. And you could get Kenneth Gainwell, which that really correlates well with Jalen Hurts as well, because Gainwell catches the ball as well. So I do like this lineup. He only leaves 700 on the table, so I don't like that. Oh, Greg Ward. That's then you leave 2,300. I think so. Yeah, this last spot you can get one of these cheaper Eagles receivers or the running back, and I think that's what a Jalen Hurts build, but he's not my favorite captain just because he is also a bit expensive. Devonta Smith is going to be my favorite captain play on this slate. I think he's very affordable. I think his upside, these receivers have the most upside of all the positions. So this is my favorite, and then I'm going to pair him with Jalen Hurts. I think Ertz is probably the best value play on the slate with Goddard being out. Let's get our Bucks pass catcher. So, like, I'm going to be putting Godwin in. I do think Evans is a bit pricey at $10,000. He should be seeing the most of Darius Slay. So I think he's the easiest one to fade here. And then I'll be playing more of Godwin and AB most likely. So Hurts to Smith and Ertz, then Godwin. I wonder if we can fit Fournette in here. Yeah, and then that leaves us 4,600 left. So we could get in Gainwell here, and that leaves you 2,200. You could fit in probably a kicker in here. This lineup, like when you leave like less than $1,000 on the table, that's better for like maybe like a single entry, like lower field tournament where you're maybe facing a couple thousand people, because Devontae Smith probably won't be as popular as like Brady or the Bucks pass catchers or Fournette. So you're getting different there. And then kickers are usually under-owned. So like this, you wouldn't want to play this in like the Millie Maker. It's going to be duplicated too many times. This would be better for like a Millie Maker, like if you play like Gainwell there, because you're leaving 2,200 on the table. Gainwell won't be very popular. So it all depends on the size of the tournament you're playing in, on how much salary to leave. Okay, so that was Devontae Smith. Now Fournette, who's my second favorite captain, just because, like, I don't know, like why they're not, like, he was this exact same price on the last Showdown slate, and he's still the main, like he's kind of taken over, like I said, as the main running back here. So I think because I'm not going to be playing Brady as much, I mean, the Bucks are going to put up some points, and I think Fournette is like, I'm going to have him in a ton of lineups. So he's my second favorite captain play. Then you get Hurts in here. Then you can get Devonta Smith, Ertz again. You can run it back with, like I said, Godwin or AB. Whichever one, save 1,200 on AB. Okay, that leaves you 5,100 left. With 5,100 left, you could get in Quez Watkins. You could get in Kenneth Gainwell. I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be a decent play on this slate, just because he's more involved in the passing game, and the Bucks are incredible against the run. They've allowed like 40 yards a game on the ground. But they're, like we saw Myles Gaskin this past week, he had like 10 targets, and he went crazy against the Bucks. So I think Gainwell at 2,400 is just a really good price, and I think he could go a little overlooked on Thursday. So he's like my favorite, probably like sneaky cheap play. Ertz won't be sneaky. I think a lot of people will be on Ertz this week. That's a Fournette build. Now let's go into these two. So Rager and Watkins, the only reason I'm using them in the captain is, one, you get so much salary savings by using them in the captain, and both of these guys, because like I do have a lot of interest in Devonta Smith, but I want to have exposure to all these receivers on the Eagles. I think one of them just has a really big game, so I want to sprinkle in some Rager and Watkins captain. Like Watkins is one of those guys, he just can catch like a 90-yard touchdown, and at his price, that could be what you need in the captain to win it. Because like let's do a Rager. So when you have Rager in there, you can get Hurts in there. I think it's gonna be really hard to fit both quarterbacks this week. And if I had to pick one, I'm gonna pick Hurts. When the Patriots played the Bucks, I faded Tom Brady for Mac Jones. People too often just look at the quarterback like, oh, he's obviously a better play than the other quarterback. Like, I'm not gonna play Mac Jones over Brady. But you need to look at the price. At the end of the day, it's the price of the player on these slates that matter. Brady at over 12,000, 12,400, like he has to do quite a lot to be in the winner. So Rager, pair it with Hurts. Get Fournette, who's my favorite running back play. Then you can get one of the pass catchers for the Bucks. We can go back to Godwin here, Godwin or AB. And then let's throw Ertz in there. And then you have 10,300 left. So you get some good plays, and then you can leave a ton of salary on the table as well. In this one, you could go like Devonta Smith, but here's why I don't really like this lineup. So you have Reagor in the captain, and then you have Ertz and Smith. So the only way, like, Ertz, Smith, right, like, they must all be catching touchdowns, and if they're all catching touchdowns, Ertz is catching a touchdown, Smith is catching a touchdown, and Reagor, because that's what they would need to do to be in like these winning lineups or get a ton of yards. That means Hurts is probably going crazy in that game. So that means Hurts is probably more of like the optimal captain there, and he's the guy that you would need at the captain. So like whenever, like, I don't like playing 3 pass catchers in a lineup where I don't have the quarterback and the captain. So it's possible that sometimes that's what you need, because obviously if you had Hurts in the captain, you probably can't afford Reagor. So it's possible, but it's just not likely. So yeah, with that last 10,000, I mean, you can get a secondary Bucks receiver, I guess, if you want. You can kind of fill that. Like, you have so much money, you can basically do anything there. And then the last, Watkins, who allows you to get the most salary savings. You get Hurts in there, Fournette. You can get Godwin. You still have 7,000 left. So yeah, I mean, you could definitely fit Brady in this one. And then you have 1,700 left. You can still get in like Greg Ward, and you leave 900, or you can get in, I don't know, you can get in like an O.J. Howard. Gronk may come back, but he may not. One catch in the end zone, and he could be in the winning showdown lineup. So like that's kind of like a Quez Watkins build. But like I said, my favorite, so if we're going through this, my favorite plays on the slate, it's Devonta Smith and Fournette at captain. That's who I'm going to have the most of at captain. At quarterback, I think if you're playing one quarterback, you play Jalen Hurts. I know a lot of people are just like, I'm just going to lock in Brady. I think Hurts is, if I had to bet, I would bet Jalen Hurts finishes with more fantasy points than Brady. But, we'll see. And then my favorite running back play is Fournette and Gainwell. I'll never play like Fournette and Jones in the same lineup, or Sanders and Gainwell in the same lineup. I just think because they're on the same team, they're negatively correlated. But yeah, Gainwell on the Eagles and Fournette on the Bucks. Favorite receivers are Godwin, Devonta Smith, the Eagles, basically the Eagles receiver core, and then I'll just be sprinkling in Tyler Johnson and Greg Ward here and there. And then my favorite tight end play is Zach Ertz. I think Zach Ertz is probably the best value play, like under 4,000. It's between him and like Gainwell. I think Gainwell is just perfect leverage off of Ertz, and Gainwell has been utilized quite a bit. So Cameron Brate, like if Gronk's out, he becomes a play. At least you have to consider him. But if like Gronk is playing, then I want nothing to do with Cameron Brate. I don't want anything to do with Gronk either. He's like 7,000, and I don't think he just goes right back into a full workload. Buccaneers defense is like you just play those, mix them in where you play a kicker, just play the Bucs D. I think that kind of wraps it up for this slate. I think this is a closer game than people think. I took the Eagles +7 here. A short week, Eagles at home. I just think this is a decent spot for the Eagles. I'm not saying I think the Eagles win. I just think this is closer than people might think. So hope this video helped you guys out with this slate and think of it more from a strategic perspective. And I will see you tomorrow for the top 10 plays under 5%. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.